Right. Oh, this is a really loose mic stand. That looks pretty good. Get nice and close.
Thank you. I used to work at a very prominent tourist attraction here in Chicago. I won't say which one it was, but I can neither confirm nor deny that we have whales. One of the things that I would do when I had downtime, was to go and stand at the information desk. And I was working on a Sunday, a Mother's Day. I didn't normally work Sundays, but since my folks lived so far away, I didn't mind filling in so others could be with their parents. It was near the end of the day, and a Sunday, and this gentleman came up. He was very tan and was not dressed for the Midwest. He was dressed for L.A. Open shirt, gold chain, very tan. And he wanted to return the wheelchair that he was borrowing to show his mother around our facility. But he wanted to know if he could take the wheelchair all the way over to the parking lot, which was in a big stadium, and then return the wheelchair. And I said, well, you know, sir, that's not something we normally do, but I think I can do one better. How about we go to where the taxis all pick up and drop off people? I will sit with your mother, and you can go and get the car and bring it up, and then she only has to walk like 10 feet. So he said, okay. And I walked down from around the counter and approached the woman, and she was very, very frail. I introduced myself, and she told me her name was Evelyn. She was wearing this green satin blouse, and her hands were almost skeletal. She was so frail. And she had this lovely corsage, this flower that her son had given her. And she told me that her son had come all the way from California to be with her that day. And so I offered to wheel the chair through the facility, and along the way asked her if she'd enjoyed her visit. And she clasped her bony fingers together and said it was more beautiful than I could ever imagine. And we got outside. It was a lovely evening. Sun was just about to set. And moved the chair over next to the bench, and I sat down, and I told the son, you go ahead, I'll sit here with her. And she asked me, will you see your mother today? And I smiled and I said, no, not today, but we're going to see each other a little later on in the week. And she kind of looked off to the horizon, and she said very quietly, you're so good, you're so kind, you remind me of... And then she kind of trailed off, and I glanced at her, and she didn't have anything more to say, so I just sat there and enjoyed the silence and being outside. And without looking at me, her eyes fixed on the horizon, she said, I'm going to tell you something I've never told another living soul. I didn't say anything. And she said, when I was young, there was a man, and we fell in love. We loved each other very much, and he wanted to marry me. And I got pregnant. And before we could get married, he died suddenly. And there was another man who wanted to marry me. And so I told him yes. I'm going to see that man soon. My son and my husband, who has passed, never knew that they weren't kin. And then she turned to me and she said, do you think he will forgive me? And I thought for a moment. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Your husband, was he a good man? And she said, yes, absolutely. And I said, Was he a good father to your son? And she said, absolutely the best. And I said to her, I don't think you have anything to be forgiven for. And then I told her about my grandfather. When my mother was very young, her father passed away. She scarcely could remember him. She was so young. And my grandmother remarried. And when he was not long for this world, they were trying to get everything ready financially, legally, and they realized that he had never officially adopted my mother. So at 89, and some point in her late 50s, they went to the family court in the small town where I'm from. And the judge made sure it was the last order of business for the day. Had everybody else leave but himself and the stenographer and my mother and grandfather. And he turned to my grandfather and he said, is there anything you'd like to state for the record before I make this official? And my grandfather said, to love your own child is an obligation. To have the opportunity to love another person's child as your own is a gift. And just then her son rolled up in the big white Rolls Royce. And he walked over and said, okay, all right, here we go, Mom. And we walked her to the side of the vehicle and we gently lowered her into the seat. And as she was leaving, as we were saying goodbye, she turned and just grasped my hand, my arm, and said, God bless you and bless you and bless you. And I said, okay, all right, Evelyn. Yeah. Make him suspicious. They drove away, and I never saw them again. But I've never forgotten that moment. Thank you.
How do you think? Schoenherr.
No, that's better than most people. Thank you. Great. Thank you.
Keep it going for Charles Schoenherr. I was glad that he wrapped it up with he never saw them again, because I was like, do you